So recently I was helping my students on the left here with some movement mechanics out of that deep backhand corner around to the tee. What are we doing around the tee and how to move back into that corner? The classic rugby ball shapes. I'm a massive fan. When I watch some of the top players, they'll move from the tee towards the sidewall and corner of the service box first. They'll execute their shot, and I'll talk about that in a second. And then they'll exit out the back there, creating this, this rugby ball type shape in and out that corner. And there's a couple of things that my student does really, really well, but there's a couple of things that I think he could do even better. So let's dissect this. I'm going to look just at him on the left for a little bit, then I'll start to use mine on the right. So first thing is, as he goes from the tee, not much of a split step there. So I like that his feet are narrow, that they're close together, but ideally this left foot comes out. He actually does some really good split steps later on, but that one in particular, he was a little bit flat-footed. But notice his direction on the way in. So if I talk about the rugby ball shape, his first movement's a little bit defensive. It's a little bit round that way, where I would encourage him to go around that way, where he's rolling into the corner. I've done a couple of videos where I look at the pros looking at this rugby ball shape. I won't be able to really look at it now. But for the sake of this video, he goes into this direction. And if I'm just looking at his base, look, we will have to lunge at certain points. We will have to get into that type of base. But ideally, we get into what I call a two-footed base. I'm just going to use my image on the right now. So let's just have a look at this. So I'll go through them. Yeah, I didn't do a full rugby ball shape, but it was enough. It wasn't great. But this is what I see a lot of the top players do, is they place their right foot down. They then have a little hop and a readjust. And there's that two-footed base where both feet are looking towards that sidewall at the contact point. If I'm being critical of myself, my right foot, if you see how it's placing, is at a bit of an angle. I actually don't like that. That's not very good. Because if I'm honest, if I didn't go around this way, that right foot wouldn't be looking out the back. So because of my negative-ish movement there, my right foot's not ideal. I'm just going to go to the next one because I think I do the next one kind of okay. There we go. That's a little bit better because it was a bit of a short shot. Yeah. There's one or two coming up in a moment where I get it right, I think. And again, I had to readjust this. I haven't quite found the right one at the moment, but let's just keep going. There's other little factors I'm going to talk about here. This is a bit better. There we go. So you can see my right foot placing in that position there, a little bit more at the glass, really turning and rolling into the corner. And if you look at my student on the left now, again, he actually goes with his left foot first, then readjusts with the right foot. Going back to my side, look at that left foot there. You'll now see that little hop and jump that I recalibrate my feet. And this two-footed base, that is ideal. That is what we're striving for. It's really solid, really side on. And the timing of getting into this base allows me to just hit a really straight ball down that line. If I'm honest, the way I coach this, I try and get people getting this base right really before even technically trying to hit that ball straight. And if I go forward a little bit, you can see my line is not too bad, an inch or two, maybe 3 inches away from that sidewall. And I've swung really naturally there. I've just gone in, I've timed my movement, and I've just let it go. One little side note, again, I'm using me a lot, but I'm going to use this because of reference to my student. Watch how this right foot goes out when I make contact and when I follow through. So let's just take a little look at that. Look how the right foot goes out, the left foot stays still, and that allows me to stay a little bit more side on through the contact point, allowing that ball to be straight. And then I do this little skip under. Massive fan of the skip under. Players like Nick Matthew were brilliant at this, really skipped under. It covers that bit of the court really efficiently. I get back to the tee and I start to walk. Massive fan. If I draw a line at the back of the service box around there, once I'm in that position, you'll see a lot of the top players just walking, casually walking up to the tee. So there's that walk. I get into my split step motion. I'm tall, I'm narrow. I'm also dragging my back foot forward. For me, that's the optimal position right there. And again, I'm going to draw on this. Really tall in the knees, heels off the floor. If you can get into this position more often when your opponent hits, this is the ideal for the split step. Okay, so going back to the screen on the left, my student, let's have a little look at a couple of things here. So I might talk about the exit first. No, not first. I'm going to talk about the split step. So look, he does a good split step there. If I'm honest, it's a bit late. I don't think he's watching as well as he could because at this moment there, as I'm hitting the ball, he was to be in that position there. If you see Archie on the right-hand screen, as he's hitting, you can notice where my feet are. And as the ball's gone off his strings, I've landed that left foot down, pushing off in that direction. So the left foot's got to go first in order to push me off in that direction. Look at my student. He does well in the sense that his left foot goes up and down, albeit a bit late, but that's some good force that he pushes off there. So that's better. He goes in a little bit more with a rugby ball shape. So I quite like that. Let's see what happens here. So that's interesting. Look, left foot down, then the right foot, and then there's a lot of readjusting and a lot of, again, hopefully this doesn't sound too harsh, but a lot of messiness. There's a little bit of sloppiness in the footwork. And if I'm honest, it's inconsistent, like going left, right, readjust, pivot, hit. All of that is actually really hard work, and it doesn't necessarily produce a consistent shot. And let's have a look there. Just notice where his ball lands. Again, hopefully I'm being critical for a nice reason. That's landed quite wide. And there's a couple that he does there. So let me go back to this. This I find really interesting. Look at how he comes out. So he done well with his right foot, really good. But notice the over rotation. Look at that point. He's looking, his whole chest is looking towards the front wall. His whole shape is looking towards the front wall. If I just go back a sec, maybe I'll do it on this one. That's a decent one there. Side on. As I come out, I have to chip that. I'm trying to stay more side on. I'm trying to exit the corner with more of a side on position, almost crabbing. Because look what my student does on the left. He pulls that right foot out, and then look how the left foot goes in front of him. It's almost like he's jogging back to the tee at this point. And that for me is, yeah, look, that's not necessarily a squash movement. Like, it's okay, but he's got to the tee and he might stop there, might isolate. Look, he does well with his split step there. He gets up, and that's great timing. So again, he did some good things, really good here. But look at that. That's hard work. Everything's facing towards the front wall, whereas the ball is over there and going into the corner. I'm a big fan of trying to get a little bit more side on. So have a look at that difference there. So that's a great image to compare and contrast that, I'm in this position. I'm slightly turned, slightly facing side on. And for me, that's going to be really beneficial. It doesn't look as hard work. You can see there just, even just this side of my body there, as opposed to the whole front chest facing the camera. So again, lots of little subtle things, but when you add it all together, it makes a big difference, because ultimately in the corner, we want to get some serious consistency about the footwork, the hop, the hits, and moving out. Again, there will be times to lunge. Okay, so going back to my student, a couple of more things I want to point out. Good split step, I like it. Again, look at the slight messiness with where his footwork is going. We did some work on this afterwards, and again, hopefully him watching this will help recalibrate it. But there, look, that doesn't feel stable. Look at all the moving parts that can go wrong. Look at how he's hitting, and he's almost rotating around the ball, therefore possibly pulling the ball out. And if he doesn't pull it out, in order to get that ball straight back down the line, he's going to have to steer it. There's going to be a bit of a steering fashion. And even there, you can see he's having to stop his follow through, pulls across, and notice where that ball lands. That's a bit of a difficult part of the court. You're not going to really get much benefit from hitting that ball there. Again, just going to point out some of the same things. The right foot comes out, left foot goes in front, rather than at this point, I would like for him to try stay more side on and the left foot come around. Again, let's have a look here. Right foot of mine goes out, push off that back leg. Look how that back leg is engaging. That knee's nice and solid now, because if I go back a screen, look how it's bent, and then I drive. All of this loaded energy, all of that loaded force drives me back out of the shot really well. There's good body weight. I skip side on. Because the ball's going down the sidewall, I don't necessarily need to open up. Can you see how I'm, this side of my body is shielded. It's turning. It's around that corner there. Again, I'm hoping I'm getting into the split step. I just got to give a quick shout out here to Archie feeding in his sliders. So I just grabbed him while he was sitting out back to feed me a couple, but credit to the guy. Anyone watching, please don't play in sliders. A little disclaimer I just got to throw in there. But again, if you see my position nice and tall, I'm probably exaggerating there a little bit. Like, that's probably a little bit too narrow, but for the sake of trying to coach it, see how I just get that foot down, push off, load onto the knee. And from there, that's an optimal position to then pounce, get into that corner with a lot of time. Let's have a look how it goes. There we go. And again, there's actually a little subtle movement here where I pull that foot almost behind, almost under, kicks me around. And as I'm doing that, look at how I'm starting to roll and rotate into that corner there. Again, right foot goes down, not too bad. Little split, little hop, having to lift it. It's some tight feeding, good feeding from Archie there. And then skip under. And you can see the similarities again and again and again. There's a lot of repetition, and I can replicate that again and again in a match. Again, flipping back to my student, let's have a look at one or two more before we close up. So yeah, that's not the optimal tee position he's in there. Again, I don't mind where he is. He's actually floated his tee a little bit to the side, but can he be a little bit more angled around that way? Let's see what he does when is he looking, maybe just glancing, maybe not quite looking well enough. Like there, you should be in that tall position. And now that right foot should have landed. If you just watch the ball coming off my strings at about that point there, as it's going past you and your eye level, that foot now, that should be in the ground. Let's see if I do it on this one there. So as Archie hits, I've actually gone probably a little bit too early there, but not too bad. You can see as the ball's gone past me, look how that foot's down. It's pushing off in that direction. Okay, I know where it's going. So maybe I'm not necessarily cheating, but I'm doing it a little bit earlier. But yeah, the timing of the split step has to be in conjunction with your opponent's swing. When I teach this, that's the biggest thing I tether and attach to, is not necessarily the mechanics of it. Yes, we need, this idea of a tall, thin base ready. This is the athletic position in squash, not where you're like really down there and you're really squatted. Look at that for legs and feet. But you get the idea that it's this nice and tall one, right? Again, going back to my student, he does the mechanics of the split step. If I'm going to be slightly critical, I like to talk about fitting a piece of paper under the foot there. At the moment, he can probably fit a phone book under there. Again, hopefully not being too harsh. Look at me on the left there. Look at this foot, how it's almost glides across the floor. I can fit a piece of paper under there, just about fit a piece of paper, and I land. Again, I can show you on another one just to make sure I'm not cheating. So see there, look at that left foot, piece of paper, and even the right foot, even though it's being blocked, not much is going to be fitting under there, but it's subtle. It's enough to just hit the floor. Look at that right foot. If I really zoom in, maybe just a thin piece of baking paper can go under there. That's how little I want it to be going, but it's enough. It's enough to go with it. So if I look at my student there, have a look at how high that is, because the higher it goes, the more the energy is going to just hit the ground and it's going to dissipate and it's going to be spread around like this, as you're not going to be able to push off as well. So that high jump and leap isn't conducive for a good split step. Let's look at the last one. So right foot does a bit better there. Left foot does a little twist, but the big thing I would encourage him there is that foot's got to point out the glass. And the way that happens, it comes around that section. So listen, lots of things to dissect here. It's probably worth another look 3, 4, 5 more times. Actually, let me just have a look at this. Look at that. Look at that right foot. Look at how open that is. Look at how that's really difficult to play. He probably does quite well and follow through is good, but that open chest and then jogging back to the tee rather than gliding side. And look, he does really well. Ball lands in a good position. But if we look at that, I'm just going to play that in slow mode. Let's have a look at what he's looking like there. Ignore mine on the right. So you can see there's a little bit of a steer, I think. There's, he does well, but I don't think that's replicable again and again in a match. So if he's coming to the tee here, I know I said it's the last thing, but there's so much I want to unpack here in good ways. And yeah, this jog to the tee, rather than looking there, if I look to the right, there's a side step, there's more of a movement, hopefully what looks more like a squash movement, what you see some of those pros doing again and again and again. And there we go, release, turn, down, foot steps. Generally the left foot will step if I'm on the backhand side. That's a nice ready position. Again, just talk about like a relatively neutral racket, possibly a little bit higher than I'd like. Maybe it should be somewhere around there, but that's my optimal ready position. If you could just take a snapshot of that, that's where you want to be as your opponent's hitting the ball, rather than, see, this is good. And look, he's gone a bit too early. That hasn't really been timed with it. Kind of yes, kind of no, but I'm not quite sure that was in conjunction. And listen, lots of good stuff here, and hopefully all of you are learning. Please do share, subscribe, and pass this on to anyone who's keen. And do remember to submit your free swing audit. See it in the notes below. Thanks, everyone. Speak soon. Bye.